Congresswoman Daigle, you have the floor.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks, Chris, for that introduction. And it's great to be part of this candidates forum today. I do apologize. I'm down at the International Wildlife Refuge. The Secretary of Interior did the formal dedication of it this week because of COVID. The people I would love to have had been here and share it weren't able to be here. And today, the chair of the House Natural Resources Committee is visiting and touring it. And as we were talking prior to this meeting, I would love to invite everybody from the 12th from Washtenaw to come down and do a day here at some point, because it really is one of God's, it's a beautiful place. We can have a fishing contest. But having said that, I'm going to be brief. I am running for re-election. Ann Arbor is now in the 12th. Washtenaw is in the 12th district. And now all of Washtenaw County will be in the new 6th district. And that's something that's going to be great. We're going to pull everybody together and try to keep everybody in the boat pulling in the same direction. The western side of Washtenaw has been represented by Kim Wahlberg. I'm going to try to stay in a kind mood today, but we're really going to have to really work hard to bring people in to talk about the issues. The new 6th district will go from the downrivers to the Trenton, Rockwood, Flat Rock. It has my land from Monroe County. It goes up through Belleville and Western Wayne. It has Plymouth Township, Northville Township, Canton, and Novi, as well as all of Washtenaw. It, as the 12th did, has a disparate number of issues, a large range of issues. And I think it's great for all of us because it really gives us the opportunity to hear different perspectives, different issues, and try to find ways to pull people together. From a political standpoint, we have more of the targeted state legislative seats than any other congressional district in the state. And we really are going to have to work very hard. Washtenaw County, which you're going to hear from other candidates, Ann Arbor has a number of state legislative seats now that we share with other areas. People are used to these races just being primary races. We're going to have to work hard to make sure that we keep these seats Democratic. And there are a number of marginal races in the new, both downriver and in the newer parts of the 6th in Plymouth and Northville, Canton, and Novi. So first thing I want to do, we've already had a meeting of all of the state legislatures, is to pull everybody together and do the coordinated campaign as we've always done. The issues are really real. As Democrats, we need to understand that people are hurting. We're going to have to, gas prices, grocery store prices are up. We need to be compassionate and empathetic to people and talk straight on about what we have done and how we have addressed those issues. Global climate is real. I'm very proud of the fact that 2 years ago, a lot of you, some of you were not happy I wasn't on the new Green Deal, but I said labor wasn't at the table. I made a commitment that at the beginning of the new congressional cycle, I would bring the environmentalists and the unions together. And not only did I do that, kept that word, the president of every environmental group was at that table participating in the discussions, as was the UAW, the IBEW, the mine workers, etc. But if it had gone to the Hill, we never would have gotten an agreement. People would have been fighting. Joe Manchin would have killed it. We stood at the White House last August with all of the OEMs as well and announced an agreement that there was a target for 50% sales of zero emission vehicles by the year 2030. I'm very proud of the fact that I am continuing to do work of bringing people together at the Wildlife Refuge today. The chair of the Natural Resources is reinforcing with me I have a bill that actually I think will finally get passed. I've worked on it for 6 years since I've been in the Congress to protect our natural resources. It's called the Wildlife, it's RAWA, the Recovery Wildlife Act, which would help protect and keep natural species, from fish and birds to plants, snakes, from going on the endangered species list. And I'm very proud of the fact that I've had more environmental bills passed than any member of the House or Senate, PFAS action bill, and I'm going to continue to work on that. Economic issues matter. This week has taught all of us. I think people they talk, we hear, we listen, we know, but with the leaked version of the Supreme Court decision on Roe versus Wade, I think it's awakened a lot of people. It has made people understand where this court is going to take us, not only on a woman's right to choose, but on privacy issues, previous Supreme Court decisions, things that we thought were the rule of law. This is a country based and founded on the rule of law, and that they're trying to take us backwards. And our challenge in this election is going to be to engage voters and have them know their vote does matter. Elections matter. So I think I'm at my 5 minutes. We're going to have a lot of issues to talk about. I could keep going. I'm very proud to represent Washtenaw County. The moving company was at my old house yesterday. We've set a target move date, God willing, June 30th. And I'm looking forward to being with all of you. This is, I know we say this every election, it's the most important election of our lifetime. This is the most, what happened this week, what's happening at the Supreme Court, it is the most important election of our lifetime. We can take nothing for granted. And there are a lot of people that are mad, but they don't know who they're mad at. They don't know what to do with that anger. And we need to make sure they know who they should be mad at. And we need to make sure they know where they need to channel that energy. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Thanks for all your great work. Appreciate it. All right, I'm going to start out by, as we always do, by reading the land acknowledgement statement. Washtenaw County occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe of the Three Fires Confederacy, the Adawa, the Ottawa, the Ojibwa or Chippewa, and the Potawatomi or Potawatomi. Washtenaw County Democratic Party recognizes historic Indigenous communities in Michigan and those who were forcibly removed from their homelands. Washtenaw County occupies land ceded in the 1807 Treaty of Detroit. We further recognize the ongoing relationship of dependence upon and respect for all living beings of earth, sky, and water. In offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty, history, and experiences. I'm keep my comments very brief this morning. First of all, I want everybody to really think seriously about continuing to protect themselves and others from the COVID virus. We, just as an example, we had 2 speakers today in our candidates corner who had to drop out because they have COVID. So, this is happening still, and we just need to make sure that everybody's staying safe and masking up and, getting boosted, getting the vaccines and taking care of yourself. But please do be very, very careful. I want to point out that we've put live closed captions are available now. So if you are hearing impaired in any way, there's a button at the bottom of the screen that should say live transcript. This will allow you to get an automatically generated closed caption. And so that's something that we're doing now. As Debbie mentioned, this week has been quite clarifying to everybody, I think, in terms of what's on our plate this year. Last week, the Washtenaw County Dems endorsed 9 ballot proposals. There's so many of them on the ballot this year. We endorsed 9 of them. If you go to our website, there's a post up about that. But if reproductive rights are an important issue for you, there's something that you can do. You can get out there and help that ballot proposal get signatures. There's also ballot proposals for preserving, voting rights and access to the ballot. But we have lots of work to do, and it starts today. You should be out there helping these groups get their signatures. They only have 180 days to collect all their signatures. So it's a very short window, and they need all the help they can get. The sun is out, and the weather's warming up. So this is a great time to start collecting those petition signatures. But if you are upset, if you are worried, if you are sad, if you are angry, if you are any of these emotions about what's happening in this country right now, specifically related to reproductive rights and voting rights, there's something you can do right now here in Michigan. So let's all work together on that. The final thing I want to say is that this afternoon at 2 o'clock, there's going to be a memorial service for Doug Kelly, those of us who have been in the party for a while know that Doug Kelly was a giant in the Washtenaw County Democratic Party. He is the person who basically created the Peace Corps. It was the work that he did and the idea that he had that eventually led to that. He passed away earlier this year. It might be late last year. I've lost track of time, but we're having a memorial for him this afternoon. I say we, it's his son, Peter. It starts at 2:00. We'll be at the First Unitarian Congregation of Ann Arbor at 4001 Ann Arbor Saline Road. Following the memorial at 2, there'll be a reception, and it'll be time for us to all get together and just, appreciate this giant who really left his mark on Washtenaw County Democratic Party and really on the country as a whole. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eli, and that will be, actually, no, we're doing Candidates Corner next. So Eli, am I okay to move forward, or do you want to say anything before we get going?
No, absolutely. Keep going.
Okay, so we've already heard from Congresswoman Dingell from Congressional District 6. Next up is State Senator Jeff Irwin, who's running for election in the State Senate District 15. So Jeff, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chris, and good morning, Washtenaw Democrats. I am State Senator Jeff Irwin. I'm currently proud to be serving as a state senator in the 18th district here in Washtenaw County. And as Chris mentioned, I am running for re-election this year. I'm running for re-election in a new district that is the 15th district. And that district, as was said earlier by Congresswoman Dingell, stretches a little bit outside of Washtenaw County. It's a little bit more competitive district, which is good for Democrats statewide. And this district really stretches from Ypsilanti to Tecumseh. It brings in the Manchester community there in southwest Washtenaw, includes Saline and all of Milan now, including the portion that's in Monroe County. And it includes the southern half of Ann Arbor and then all of the Ypsilanti community, along with Pittsfield Township and Saline. So you've got Superior Township and City of Ypsilanti and Augusta Township and Ypsilanti Township, of course. And so that's a new area to run in, and I've already started reaching out to some of the Democrats in those new areas. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity for some of us here in Washtenaw County that have been running in and working in districts that are decided in primaries to now spread those wings and affect more of these swing districts and really take advantage of the opportunity that redistricting has provided. Just a little bit about me. For those of you who don't know me, I have been involved in the party for a long time, but I originally came to Washtenaw County originally from Sault Ste. Marie up in the Upper Peninsula. I came down here to go to the University of Michigan, and like so many people, I got drawn into this wonderful community. And I got drawn in through activism around affordable housing and building a new homeless shelter and trying to protect our environment. And as a result of that, I ended up getting elected to the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners and had an opportunity to serve there and learn a lot about mental health programs and public health programs. And that has served me really well as a state legislator. If I am fortunate to be elected again, you can count on me to continue focusing on all the big issues of state government, great schools in every zip code, a clean environment, protecting the Great Lakes, promoting people's equality and equal protection under the law, no matter who they are or what they look like or where they're from, an economy that works for working people. And you can expect me to, continue to work on housing, more affordable housing, building more housing, taking advantage of these ARP dollars to rebuild our mental health system and our social safety net around substance abuse, to invest in clean energy, to fight climate change, to invest in our infrastructure, to provide good jobs, building a platform for success. But all that being said, I think that the chair's comments were kind of what I want to get back to. Look, we're facing a different sort of battle this time. We're facing a different sort of Republican Party, frankly. We're facing a Republican Party that's been taken over by right-wing zealots who believe that the last election was stolen, who believe that women's bodies are their property to appropriate through our courts. And it's a scary time. We have a full court press attacking our fundamental voting rights, our fundamental rights to democracy, our reproductive rights, the most fundamental rights that we have to our own bodily autonomy. This is a different sort of election. And so that's why I'm proud to be standing shoulder to shoulder with Democrats like you to fight for reproductive justice, to fight for our voting rights. And so I would encourage you to do exactly what the chair said, which is to go out and get some petitions, bring them to your friends. Let's make sure that we get these issues on the ballot this year. And then let's make sure that we get out there during the fall and win these swing elections, because for the first time in a long time, We don't have to drive very far to affect these swing elections. We don't have to drive to Muskegon or the Western Upper Peninsula or to McCoy County to affect swing elections that can tip the balance in the state legislature this year. We can do that right here in Washtenaw County. So I'm looking forward to doing that work with all of you. And I'm looking forward to fighting on these important issues on a battleground that just feels and looks different, because our fundamental rights are at stake. And I'm ready for this fall, and I'm looking forward to working on it with all of you.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Excellent. Next up was supposed to be Ypsilanti Mayor Lois Richardson, but I just learned that she also has COVID. So that's 3 of our panelists today that have come contracted COVID. So just one more time, please, people, wear your mask everywhere you go if you're going to be with other people. This is serious. So that takes us next then to Jason Morgan. He is a county commissioner who right now, and he's running for, actually, I'm making sure that he's here. Looks like he's not here yet. I'm gonna double check on the participants. Make sure that he's there, the attendees. I need to promote him. No, he's not here yet. Okay. With that then, we'll move on to County Commissioner Caroline Sanders, who is running for re-election in County Commission District 4. So Caroline, you have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to just have a couple of words. So I am running for a second term as County Commissioner for District 4. And I would like to say that my goal in running for re-election is to be able to continue the work that I've started. And let me be specific, continue the work and the learning, because it is a learning process, to be able to support families in health, safety, the environment, and make sure that labor is represented. Continuing my advocacy, I have purposely selected as my additional community or committee responsibilities to sit on the Road Commission, the Food Policy Council, Michigan Works Consortium, and the MSU Extension. And those feed into things that are most important to me. I am thrilled that I've had an opportunity to participate in the ARPA funding and how we will use that as a county to improve the lives of our residents. And to date, we have done that by voting to support broadband for the entire county, improving support, financial support for families through childcare, weatherization, hiring more healthcare providers, the Mobile Support Services Initiative, which should be able to deliver support services to those that are more rural and live in our urban areas of the county. And I won't say most importantly, but a huge step in sort of addressing some of the inequities that have occurred in terms of funding support in our county would be the Community Priority Fund. And I am proud to say that I was one of the people that really advocated for a process that would not only make sure that we were distributing that money in a more equitable way to those sort of boots on the ground groups, but also create a process where we were teaching them how to apply for money such as this and soft money, so that when this money is utilized, they will still know how to continue their work and make it sustainable through the work that we are doing and the support that they will be receiving from the Racial Equity Office. So I'm excited to be able to throw my hat back in the ring. I believe that I have kept my word to my constituents and to Washtenaw County in terms of advocating for them, asking questions, sometimes not comfortable questions, but speaking up, I think, for some of the voices that are on a lower volume as it relates to some of our public officials. So I am just looking forward to my next opportunity for 2 more years. And thank you very much to the Washtenaw County Dems for allowing us an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Caroline. Appreciate that so much. Okay, next up, we do have Jason Morgan, who has joined us. He's a county commissioner who's running for House District 23. Jason, if you would like to unmute yourself, you have the floor.
Hello, thank you. And sorry for being a little late here. I am at a candidate training in Lansing today because you can never know enough about how to run campaigns. And I wanted to meet some of the other candidates running across the state to figure out where we can be helpful. So I know a lot of folks on here, but my name is Jason Morgan, and I'm very happy to be serving as a Washtenaw County Commissioner and running for District 23 in Washtenaw County, which covers from downtown Ann Arbor over to Superior Township and up to South Lyon and over to Plymouth and Northville Townships, just part of those ones. So it's a fun new district. I think I think a lot of folks hopefully have seen the work that we've done on the county board over the last couple of years. I'm really proud of the amount of teamwork we've had. We've all worked together. We've been focused on building a bold, progressive agenda for the county board and then following through with that with real plans and how we're going to get things done. I think we often hear a lot of folks with good intentions talk about big, bold ideas like getting to climate neutral or investing in education or early childhood, those kind of things. But we're actually doing it in Washtenaw County. We have a climate action plan in the works so that we can actually map out a plan of here's exactly what we're going to do to get to our goal. We are investing in early childhood. We're investing in childhood savings accounts on the east side of the county. We're doing really big things. So my hope in running for state house is that we can keep doing that. In Lansing, we can have more progressive action. I think we have some phenomenal candidates running in our now 7 seats in the House that touch Washtenaw County. And so candidly, I am very happy to not have a primary election. And so I will be our Democratic candidate for District 23. And what that tells me is that I'm going to work exactly as hard as I would work, even if I had a tough race, because we need to elect these other candidates statewide. Jennifer Conlon's here at this training with me as well. She is phenomenal and she's in a 50-50 seat. So my big ask is quite frankly on all of us to help make sure we elect Democrats in every seat we possibly can. And hopefully we can do that together, mobilize the incredible network that we have through the Washtenaw County Dems and get out into Livingston County, get out into Monroe County and Jackson and all these other places where we really, really have to make sure we elect everyone. So I'll stop there. Thank you so much. I'll be on for a few minutes here and then hop back in the training. But thank you all for all that you're doing. And I'm always really happy to be part of the Washtenaw Dems.
Thanks a lot, Jason. My camera is not working for some reason, so I'm going to be off screen. Next up is Commissioner Andy Labar, who's running for re-election in District 7. Andy, you have the floor.
Hi, Chris. Thanks. Thanks to the Washtenaw Dems for having this forum. My name is Andy Labar. I'm running for re-election in the 7th County Commission District, which is the eastern half of the city of Ann Arbor. I'm a fan of serving with Caroline Sanders and many other fine members of the commission. My major priority has been human services, getting more human services out to those who need them. Things like mental health services, public health services, personal and community economic services through our Office of Community Economic Development. Those remain priorities along with other things like increased work around racial equity, some of the climate things that Jason mentioned. I have a Republican opponent in the fall. It is a relatively safe district, so my job, like Jason's, will be to help friends and allies up and down the ticket. And I just want to say a quick special thank you to Commissioner Justin Hodge, who I believe is ill and not able to be here today. He's running for re-election. I'm really excited about the candidacy of Annie Somerville running our city council member in Ypsilanti. As I said, a fan of Caroline's and just looking to continue the work on the board. And thanks again to the Dems, Chris, everybody for all your work, and Mary Hall, time for setting this up. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks so much, Andy. It is Really great to have so many friends running for office around the state. It's really quite a joy and an honor. Next up, we have Dharma Achman. She's running for Ward 1 Ann Arbor City Council. So Dharma, you have it. I apologize if I mispronounced your last name.
Okay, it often gets wrong. It's actually Ackman, and I'm running in Ward 4. So, okay, so hi everyone. I'm really happy to be here today. I'm Dharma Ackman. I'm a progressive Democrat running for Ann Arbor City Council in Ward 4. I'm going to tell you a bit about me because I'm fairly new to this group. I was born way up in Houghton, Michigan on the Upper Peninsula. I mostly grew up in Lake Leelanau. I'm a proud daughter of a trade union pipe fitter and also a first-generation college student. Earned my undergraduate at Michigan State and then my PhD here at the University of Michigan School of Information. I moved to Ann Arbor in 2002 to come to graduate school. And for me, Ann Arbor always had a reputation as being one of the best places in the state to live, of course, aside from my own Leelanau County. And I quickly found that to be true. For me, what made this such a great place to live and continues to make it such a great place to live is a sense of community, progressive values, and high overall livability. And so 20 years later, here I am. I've lived here for 20 years, as I said, 17 of them in Ward 4. In that time, I've been very active in public service work because I care deeply about the city and the people that live here. This includes things like volunteering with Project Grow, 826 Michigan, and the Washtenaw County Bicycling and Walking Coalition. I was also a volunteer for the A2 Ethics Bowl, which brings high school students together to debate topical ethical issues. And also, I was a volunteer for the Ann Arbor League of Women Voters, where I was responsible for moderating candidate forums, some of them with folks that are sitting here today. In 2018, I was elected to the Ann Arbor District Library Board of Trustees, where I've served as both treasurer and now vice president. And as a board working with staff, I'm really proud to say that we've been strongly committed to equity and inclusion, embarking on a number of programs and policy revisions that aim to dismantle barriers to opportunity so that everyone can take full advantage of what the AADL has to offer. We've also been strongly supportive of staff unionization efforts at the library. In my work life, as I mentioned, I have a PhD in information. That means I know everything, I think. I know that that title is a little bit vague, but I'm a research scientist at the Institute of Social Research at the University of Michigan, where we work to ensure that social science data that is connected with public dollars are available for the world to use. I'm also the director of a large team of project management staff, where I'm a leader known for rapport building, communication, curiosity, tenacity, and impactful problem solving. So in closing, I'm a committed, high integrity, empathetic, pragmatic, progressive public servant who listens and is really ready to tackle the issues the Ann Arbor 4th Ward cares about most. These are issues like excellent city services, clean water, roads that are in good repair and are safe for everybody, housing affordability. I want to make sure that people from all walks of life can continue to live here. And I think anyone who's lived here any amount of time has experienced friends and colleagues getting pushed out to surrounding areas. Building out transit systems that safely serve everybody. To me, this is an equity and affordability issue. And then also making tangible progress on our commitment to climate action. So thank you again so much for having me here. It's great to be part of this panel.
Thanks so much, Dharma. I do apologize for both mispronouncing your name and misstating that you are in Ward 4, not Ward 1. I apologize for that. It's a hazard of my job that I get things wrong on the regular, very publicly. Next up and last up is Angeline Smith, who I do believe is running for Ann Arbor City Council Ward 1. But if I've got that wrong, Angeline, please do correct me. And you have the stage, so please unmute yourself and turn your camera on.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Chris. I am grateful to have been invited here to speak with you. I am Angeline Smith. I am a candidate for Ward 1, Ann Arbor City Council. I am a small business owner here in Ann Arbor. I run a small boutique accounting and consulting firm. My clients are predominantly nonprofit organizations and service-based small businesses where I help them manage their financial operations and work with them to operate their organizations and businesses from a strategic, proactive perspective. I relocated here from Detroit in 2007. My business I founded in 2004. So it became quite evident that Ann Arbor was a place that I should come because as I was growing my business, I worked quite frequently here because of the nonprofit, excuse me, my dog is working with me here, because of the nonprofit presence here. It's one of the cities with the largest nonprofit presence in the state. And so the reason I'm running is because, as others have said, people are quite frustrated. I don't like to use the word angry. I like to channel that anger into something positive. And I'm one of those people who is frustrated about what's going on in the country is in general and how it has impacted me personally. Just a little bit about me. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting from Wayne State University. I have a master's degree in public administration from Central Michigan University. I've done a little post-grad work in pursuit of a PhD in nonprofit management because as I was doing my business plan as my master's thesis, I thought I needed that credential to begin to start my business, and it turned out I didn't. So I'm a PhD school dropout proudly because the business has been operating full-time for 18 years. And I've been doing pretty well with that. The reason, as I said, that I'm running and what I mean by having been impacted personally is because when I relocated to Ann Arbor, I set up shop here. I left my home. I sold my home and wanted to put my resources into my business. And unfortunately, about 3 years into being here, I found myself, as Dharma mentioned, pushed out into the outskirts. And I had to move because I could no longer afford the housing that I had moved into here. And it wasn't until I moved back in 2016 to Arrowwood Hills Cooperative, which is a member-owned cooperative where I was allowed to be in what would be considered affordable housing. And because there's some threat here, I'm on the board of Arrowwood Hills, I became very concerned about, again, being vulnerable where housing is concerned. And it sort of let me know that even though I've managed to educate myself, I left home at 18, I am still paying for student loans at 53. And so it just became quite evident I needed to be a part of the policymaking process, at least at some level of government. And so that's what encouraged me to run. And so I have, before I started my business, just a little bit more, I worked with KPMG Consulting, where I traveled in the education practice, where I helped universities and nonprofits who were receiving federal grants to manage their funds effectively so that they could continue to receive those grants. And I decided to leave that corporate world because I am very much independent and didn't like the political ladder climbing that needed to be done in order to be successful. And so I started the firm for that reason. And so what I think I would bring to the council table is someone that's very independent. I have demonstrated that based on how I have managed to move out on my own with my business and not try to find any alliances in order to advance myself in my career. I also would bring a strong financial management background to the council table. I, as a minority and as someone who grew up in a very marginalized community, I think I also have what I would consider a duality in terms of being able to look at what is being presented to me from a perspective of not only financial integrity, financial feasibility, administrative feasibility. In other words, if we are considering something, can it really be done? And also from the perspective of making sure there are no unintended consequences to other communities as we make policy. I just want to thank you again for allowing me to speak here. If you want any more information about my candidacy, I invite you to my website at electangeline.com. And thanks again for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much, Angeline. If there are any other candidates out there that wish to speak at our Candidates Corner in future meetings, contact Mary Hall Sham. She has put her contact information in the chat. You can also contact her and the rest of the programs team at programs@washtenaw.dems.org. So, Mary, did you want to say something? I see you popped in.
Yes, in fact, I am the only person you should contact because
Okay.
Loretta and Eli, they are taking care of programs. I do Candidates Corner.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
anyone that wants that, because we may have to make some other arrangements, but just me, and put my contact information in the chat. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much. We're gonna finish up here. I wanted to say one thing. One of the things that's been talked about by a lot of the candidates is the changed situation here in Washtenaw County, with us now being entirely within one congressional district and touching on a lot of other state legislative districts. We now touch, instead of just 3 or 4, we now touch 7 House districts and 2 Senate districts, state Senate and state House districts. And so we know very much, very well how much our program is, quite frankly, more developed and more robust than those in surrounding counties. So we are setting up a regional table to talk to all of the other county parties and other stakeholders in these other districts that we connect with, and making sure that we're all working together to get these candidates elected. So that work is underway and it's starting early, and we're very excited about it. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Eli Nathans. And if you are on camera and not speaking, please turn your camera off and mute yourself until it is time for you to speak. Eli, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chris. We have 2 candidate panels coming up. The first is for District 32. The moderator for that panel will be Mary Hall Sham. So Mary, would you care to take the mic and
Okay, Eli, thank you very much. And good morning, everybody. And thank you all for joining us this beautiful Saturday morning. We have a very full lineup for the 32nd district. I think there are 6 candidates. In fact, there are 6 candidates listed as the last time I checked the Washtenaw County Clerk's Elections Bureau. And so the format this morning is that we're going to go in alphabetical order. You have 6 minutes to introduce yourself, give us some information about your platform, and then we will reverse the order for additional questions. And your time limit for the questions will be at the end, and each person will be allowed 2 minutes for wrap up and for questions. So we will start now with the first candidate that is listed. And I do believe that is Mr. Marshall Averill. Averill, good morning.
Good morning, Mary. And good morning, everyone else. Thank you all for having me here. And thank you all for taking the time to get to know some of the local candidates. I also want to say that I really appreciated hearing from everyone else that has already gotten to speak. Again, my name is Marshall Averill. I know that I'm a bit of a newcomer to the political arena here, and so I wanted to take some time to introduce myself. I moved to Ypsilanti in 2009 when I began my studies at Eastern Michigan University. I graduated in 2014 with a degree in political science. I then started a 1-year AmeriCorps term where I worked very diligently on local economic empowerment with United Way of Washtenaw County. That AmeriCorps term turned into a 4-year stay where the work that I did along with was extremely impactful, bringing financial coaching, credit repair, and free tax services to the county. That led to individuals being able to purchase their first home. That also led to millions of dollars in both federal and state money being captured and brought to our community through our free tax services. And again, that was a service that was provided absolutely free and driven by community volunteers, and work that I'm very proud to have done. My time at United Way ended in 2014, and I joined the coaching staff at Washtenaw Community College. I serve as academic support, a mentor, a big brother to a cohort of first-generation low-income students of color who have all graduated from Washtenaw County and now attend universities across the country, realistically. And again, that is work that I am very proud to do. My professional career has been dedicated to serving marginalized people and serving my community, and it is something that I wake up every single day excited to do. And that is why I'm running for this office. In my work as a financial coach, I was made acutely aware of the fact that no matter how much support you provide an individual, moving individuals does not move communities. The way you move communities is through policy. And so as I continue to work at Washtenaw Community College, I've also begun studies at Michigan State University, where I study public policy, political science, and economics, so that I can equip myself to be as prepared as possible, not only to enact policies that will affect communities, but enact and create policies that are economically sound and politically feasible. As a candidate, that is what I hope to do: bring about progressive policies that are feasible to our community and that are economically sound. Some of those include making our community colleges tuition free. I believe that our community colleges represent the opportunity for personal empowerment, both for our existing workforce as the needs of our employers change and shift and evolve, but also as a way for us to protect our young people, the overwhelming debt that higher education can. I also believe in transparency and accountability with our police. And so that is something that, if elected, I would immediately fight for and demand, quite frankly. One thing that I believe is extremely attainable is to enact legislation requiring our police officers, our law enforcement agents, to release their body cam and vehicle camera footage within 21 days of any complaint. Easy to enact. It will cost us very little to do, and it will guarantee that there is, at the very least, transparency between our law enforcement agencies and our citizens. And finally, another, again, very common sense policy that I would push for is around healthcare. We do not need to pay more than any other country in the world for life-saving medications like insulin. Our ability to enact price caps on these types of medications. And I think, again, that is something that I would do immediately. These are just a few of the policies that I would fight for, but at the end of the day, what I want you to know about me is that I care about people. I'm a progressive candidate who believes in progressive policies, and I believe in empowering our community. Thank you all for having some time out of your day to listen to us, and I look forward to answering any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And we will hold the questions until the last person has presented in reverse order. Mr. Casey, it is now your turn to introduce yourself and to give us your platform. Welcome.
All right. Thank you, Mary. Good morning, everyone. My name is Roderick Casey. I am Ypsilanti Township delegate. I've been elected 5 times as the delegate. I'm also a state central committee delegate. I've been in politics, at least in the Democratic Party, Washtenaw County Democratic Party, for 19 years. And I've also been in politics a total of 32 years. I started off in politics as a community activist. I stayed in Pittsfield back in 1989, and I was assaulted by a Pittsfield police officer who pulled a gun on my pregnant wife's stomach, and it was all over a civic matter. So I had to end up contacting Congressman Conyers, who investigated, sent the Justice Department out, and we was able to get rid of some of the loopholes in the police department. And we got Richie Coleman on board as a pastor and communication liaison for the community. So I go back with social justice many, many years before many of my opponents was even born. Okay. And so I continue to fight social justice just as well. Since I have been in the party, I have been active in drawing up resolutions. I was the first one to draw up progressive resolutions, including bringing funding for substance abuse and mental illness, also along with many other issues that no one else wanted to talk about that is affecting our community. I am a strong advocate for mental health because I grew up in this town just as well and raised the kids just as well. But my oldest boy, he had a mental illness from lead poisoning. And as he got older, he got involved with substance abuse and, of course, making some willy-nilly felonies. And eventually, he took his own life because he felt no more that he was worthy of being here, because we have a justice system that tell our young men that they ain't worth nothing, they better off dead. Such as felony boxes, which I introduced a resolution to get rid of, which also includes you can't get an apartment because of a felony. And these things tell our kids, send our kids a subliminal message that they are not worth nothing, they are not men, and that they'd be better off in prison or dead. And I intend to stop this, sir. I intend to bring more funding to Michigan prison reentry. I just got through coming from a convention a couple of weeks ago, and I told the governor, instead of spending $10 million on some electronic cuffs for the prisoners, we know where they're at. We know that they don't need cuffs. They're already in a cell. That money can be used for housing when they return to the community. That money can be used for therapy for the women. That money can be used for job training, not no handcuffs with electronic monitors on it. So I am an advocate, a passionate advocate for that, as well as mental illness as well. I want to address also the wage gap, the wealth gap in Ypsilanti. Right now, we are one of the poorest part of the counties in the county of Michigan, the 32nd district, and I want to change it in a different direction. I think outside the box. I would like to see not only that the minimum wages be brought back, but I would like to see that it is up to the current index, which is $26 an hour. And I believe that could be done with the governor participating and giving what would you call it? Extra help with it. All right, adding money to it, subsidize it, because right now, we lived it through the twinkle down economic from the Reagan years. The only thing got twinkle down was us, which means our kids was all in prison or strung out on drugs. That was the twinkle down. Businesses made profits, but humanity went backwards. So as a state legislator, your state legislator, I intend to turn that around, to bring funding, to bring businesses, to bring job training for the infrastructure. It's important as a long-term delegate to have a report. All right, a report with the ones up in Washington, D.C., a report. I have those reports with Debbie Dingle and all the rest of them, and they're able to communicate what the community needs. I am a community activist. I do get in touch and stay in touch with the people in my community, and I do know exactly what they need, and I have shared the same successes and failures as my constituents, but I'm proud to say that 3 of my kids got their own business. So I support businesses around here, small business as well. So I have experience. I'm viable. I'm progressive. I'm no nonsense, and I mean business. You know, Ypsilanti have to move forward, but in the right direction. I want to see equal education for every student, affordable. There's no reason why anyone should have bought a $41 million scoreboard, $41 million in tuition instead of going up at U of M. No one said a word about that. 41 million, considering at least 320 kids full scholarship to school all the way, instead of a scoreboard. Hell, I'll put a scoreboard up there and paint it, put some lights in it, and it'd be good, okay? And I only charge $41, not 41 million. So I'm a no-nonsense guy. I love this community. I love the people in it. And I'm tired of seeing them get gypped out of the resources that come into this county. So as your delegate, right now, I have been working backhanded, getting everything together, putting out resolution, addressing the issues, especially when it comes to housing and homes. You know, seniors over 59 should not have to have their rent raised up. All right? So, and then we need one health care system. Instead of pressing our small business to pay, we need to participate. We need to make the town more attractive for businesses out of the state, or to create more businesses. So as your state legislators, these are just some of my plans. So thank you for allowing me to introduce myself.
Thank you for that introduction and platform statement, Mr. Casey, very much. And now we'll move right
You're
on
welcome.
to our next candidate, Mr. London, Isaac London. Are you available? Please unmute and come on camera. Isaac, are you here? Let's see, let me just check to see. I don't see him here right now, so we'll move on to the next candidate, Attorney Robyn McCoy. Welcome, and I see you are here. Are you? Robyn? Okay.
I'm gonna have to elevate her to a panelist. She's
Okay,
in the attendees. I'm doing that right now.
Okay. And we will just hold on for a moment.
Here in a second.
There's, okay, I see her.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Absolutely. Thank you.
So,
Okay, there you are.
all right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Attorney Robyn McCoy, and I'm also running as a candidate for state representative in the 32nd District, which includes the city of Ypsilanti, Ypsi Township, Pittsfield Town, parts of Pittsfield Township, and parts of Superior. So I am running for office because I've studied the law. I attended the University of Michigan Law School. I've been practicing the law for the past 20 years, and I think that I would be ideal as a person to help be a lawmaker in Lansing. I was born in Ann Arbor, and I grew up in Superior Township. I lived in Washington Square, 8631 Kingston Court. I attended Thurston and then Cheney Elementary School. Went off to graduate from Father Gabriel Richard High School. I was at the age of 16, I was the congressional page for Congressman William Ford. So I was able to get firsthand exposure and experience working for the federal government and seeing how the legislature works. And then I attended the University of Chicago. I was mentored there by Michelle Obama. And she helped me with my law school application in the process. And I was also there when Barack Obama first ran for state senate. So that was really exciting. While I was at the University of Chicago, I started an academic support network for Black women to help make sure that our issues and needs were addressed rather at the college level. I graduated early with honors in a degree in anthropology from the University of Chicago. And then I went from there there to actually work in the family firm. McCoy and Associates is a law firm. We've been here in the county. My dad's practiced for 40 years. I've practiced for 20. So we've been servicing the county for that full time. Just making sure that we see to the needs of folks in the community. We're actually the only father-daughter African-American owned firm in this area. And so I went off while I was working, or while I was in law school. I was the political action chair for the Black Law Students Association of Michigan. So I was very active in the fight to preserve affirmative action. I attended protest rallies, and we received an award, the NAACP Image Award, for our actions. And I received the Distinguished Service Award from the Black Law Students Association of Michigan. I was also the political action chair for the Native American Students Association while I was at Michigan. And then I've been practicing as an attorney. I started practicing in the firm and doing indigent defense, family law. I started my first indigent defense cases out of 14A2, where you have Judge Tabby right on Michigan Avenue. So that's why I started. I also did neglect and abuse cases. I won my first 3 neglect parental discipline cases in a row out of Washtenaw County. And I went on to work for the Legal Aid Defender's Office in Detroit. I did that for a year. And then I worked for a couple of years in a law firm in Detroit. And then at the same time, I started working with the Michigan Children's Law Center. So I've had a history of working for children that have been neglected and abused. And I did that for over 12 years. started programming with my mentor, Judge Deborah Thomas. I was traveling around with her. That goes back probably about 7-8 years, doing expungements, educating people about cleaning their records. I still have that as like a main practice today. On a daily basis, I'm working on applications, helping people to redeem themselves from the perils of the criminal justice system so that they can clear their records. So I'm running for office because, I do indigent defense. I still do that. And I practice primarily out of Washtenaw County. And handling criminal, family law, estate planning, expungement, educational advocacy. But I'm running for office because I want to take the fight from the courtroom to Lansing. As I said, I've studied the law, I've practiced the law, and now I think that I would be ideal to be a lawmaker. I also, besides being a congressional page, I interned in the office of Senator Carol Mosley Braun, addressing constituent concerns. And I also recently was a legislative assistant in the office of State Representative Ronnie Peterson, who is out of the 54th district. This is the new 32nd district. I have his endorsement. I have the endorsement of Commissioner Ricky Jefferson. I have the endorsement of former Court of Appeals Judge Cynthia Stevens, who has been involved with the battle, with voting rights. I also have the endorsement of Christina Montague, who was a former Washtenaw County Commissioner and the owner of the Huron View. As far as my platform, you can go to robynmccoy.com to find out more about it. But just to highlight some of the issues, I think it's important that we have affordable and quality housing for people, affordable daycare, maternity leave, paternity leave, clean water, climate change. They've legalized marijuana, but it needs to be legalized on a federal level to protect people's rights. We need to modify, restore auto no fault because of the impact that it's had on people like my clients. We also need to have economic development, job opportunities, job skills and training and infrastructure repair. In this district, there are parts of the district that are depressed, and we need to make sure that we get the right businesses in this community that are going to help protect and help give people quality jobs so they can have a quality life. I want to make sure that we're pursuing educational achievement for the students. For me, my education was a door opener. If I didn't get the quality education that I got, some of which was in the district, then I wouldn't be here today as an attorney. Only 5% of attorneys are actually African American, so it's a big feat in itself. I want to make sure that we protect senior rights, that we address public safety, criminal justice reform. I'm involved, I'm the president of Black Women Lawyers in Michigan. I'm the vice chair for the Michigan Democratic Women's Caucus. So I've been working for years on these issues, working with the legislators. And so, but I want to, I guess I said, take the fight from the courtroom and the educational programming into Lansing. Healthcare. I want to make sure that everybody has quality healthcare, and more importantly, I mean, to me it's ludicrous. And I did release a statement about this issue with the abortion or women's bodily autonomy. It's ludicrous that we're even talking about women losing the right to choose what they do with their body when we have a system where there are inequities for women, other people too. And I think that if we don't get out in the streets, protest, social media, go to the Supreme Court, if we don't take this to task, fight it on the local level in the legislature, fight for women's rights, then it's just a slippery slope. There'll be other rights there'll be issues. There's LGBTQ rights, there's issues with African Americans, people of color, immigrant rights. So there've been crazy people basically running the show, conservative folks, predominantly some white males. I mean, I'm not saying, they're obviously, I have clients that are white males that are great, but we've had some conservative people that are running this country that want to take away our autonomy. And so I decided, I've supported progressive candidates in the past, but I decided I was going to take a leap, jump off the deep end of the pool and get in this race so that I could help protect the constituents in the 32nd district, the children, make sure that, because the children are watching us, making sure that we get supports as far as mental health treatment facilities, drug facilities. And so, again, my website is robynmccoy.com. I've got some fundraisers coming up, one on May 12th from 5 to 8 at the Eagle Crest Golf Club, rather. So if you want to join me in this battle, then reach out to me, robynmccoy.com, and my number is 734-846-3042. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that information, Attorney McCoy, very much. And now we will move on. I'm trying to see if Mr. London has joined us, or if he is in the attendees. Please let us know that you're here. But in the meanwhile, we're going to continue right on. Is Miss Carol Smith available? Carol Smith, you are next.
I have not seen her, Mary.
Okay, then we will move on to Mr. Wilson, Mr. Jimmie Wilson. Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning, Mary. How are you?
Just fine.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. I am Jimmie Wilson Jr., running for the 32nd District State Representative seat. I am a lifelong member here in Ypsilanti. When I graduated high school, I attended the Michigan Institute of Aviation and Technology, where I got my airplane mechanic license. I ended up transitioning from that type of power generation into renewable energy. I was working for Siemens Energy, building wind turbines from the ground up. I ended up transitioning into where I'm at now, Ford Motor Company, for the past 10 years, where we're building hybrid batteries and the all-electric battery for the F-150. One thing's for certain is I've always had a passion in sustainability and the environment and our climate crisis. And so that's kind of showed in my blue-collar education and blue-collar employment. In 2014, when I got very active with UAW, I ran for trustee on the executive board, UAW Local 898, and I was successful. I'm now serving my third term on the executive board at UAW Local 898. I quickly learned that if you're going to be a union activist, you probably should be a political activist, because as you all know, we have a lot of folks who are trying to take away workers' rights, union rights, and so I have a great passion trying to make sure that we make it easier for workers to unionize if they so choose. We're going to be fighting for raising the minimum wage, strengthening the OSHA laws so that we have safe work environments. Also, in 2016, I ran for trustee in Ypsilanti Township because as I got more active in my community and active with UAW, I decided it's time to get more active in the community that I've been raised in and have grown up in and have been a lifelong member of. So in 2016, I was successful in running for Ypsilanti Township trustee. And in 2020, fortunately, the residents seen the good work that I was doing and reelected me in 2020. So I've been elected here in Ypsilanti Township for 6 years. We've gotten a lot of good things done here on the township board, things like improving our ADA accessibility at our government offices, making sure that we give upgrades to our community center. We do acknowledge that we need to get a larger recreation center, and so that's some of the work that we've been also working on here lately. We've always invested a lot into our parks. We have almost 27 parks. That's probably one of the biggest things that our township residents have always pointed out, that we invest heavily into our park system. When we have developers come in, we make sure that we put certain environmental issues at the forefront of when they're trying to develop. We put certain responsibilities on them, making sure they are using fertilizer that is environmentally friendly, making sure they're planting native trees and native plants and things like that. Also, we are Ypsilanti Township. This is the second largest municipality in Washtenaw County, the seventh largest township in the state of Michigan. We invest more into our roads than a lot of the municipalities here in the county because, as you know, we are having a shortage of funding for infrastructure from the state level. But I believe that with our current governor and some of our state representatives here in Washtenaw County and our state senator, I think that we're going to definitely be pushing for more infrastructure funding moving forward. We've gotten a lot of things done in Ypsilanti Township regarding housing as well. We have partnered with Habitat for Humanity, which I'm also on the board of directors, trying to make sure we renovate seniors' housing, making sure we have access to homes at a low cost. The neighborhood stabilization has been one of the priorities in Ypsilanti Township. And so it has been over the past 6 years that I've been on there that we have really started to stabilize some of our neighborhoods and reinvest into the neighborhoods. Some of the issues that I'd like to address on the state level, obviously, you know that there are a plethora of issues that need to be addressed, but I think that the top three issues here in Ypsilanti revolve around housing, affordable housing specifically. For so long, we've heard of folks getting pushed out of Ann Arbor into Ypsilanti because of housing. However, over the past 5 to 7 years here, people are starting to get pushed out of Ypsilanti. And so we need to start really having that conversation around affordable housing, around potential rent controls. We need to, housing is a human right. And you'll see that right at the top of my website, because housing is a big issue. And I think all around Washtenaw County, our elected officials recognize that. So even though I'll be making sure we push for housing, affordable housing here in Ypsilanti, this actually will be something that will be most likely a collaboration of our state representatives and our state senators here in the county. The other issue I'd like to address around education, specifically K through 12, they need more funding in our K through 12 system, a more equitable formula. Some school districts need a little more help than others. Specifically, the ones here that are on the east side of the county, they have requested funding to pay off some of their debts. In Ypsilanti Community School specifically, they have $2 million a year off the top of their budget that still has to pay for an old school district that is no longer in existence because of a merger. So that will be something that we'll need to address on the state level to see how we can help them get more funding into the schools for support staff. to pay the support staff correctly, to make sure we're getting social workers into the schools. I think all of our school districts have acknowledged that around the county that we already knew before the pandemic, we needed a lot more support staff. We were keen on mental health issues, but now with this pandemic among us, it has been kind of exacerbated. So mental health has to really be at the top of the list, healthcare. So that is actually the third piece of my top 3 priorities is mental health, making sure we have more funding into our community mental health, making sure we're paying our social workers correctly, making sure we have access to comprehensive mental health. These are kind of my 3 top priorities. However, as you all have seen over this past 4 or 5 days, there's going to be another issue that comes to the states. We thought that on the federal level, women's reproductive rights was going to be secure. However, we know now that this is going to come to each state making that decision. So on day one, this is going to be a topic that we need to address. I am pro-choice, and I believe that even when you look at Black maternal mortality rate, this is going to be something that's going to affect Black women, probably more than any other culture, because we know based on just science and the research that has been done, Black women are probably going to be affected even more. So this is going to be something that affects Ypsilanti and, quite frankly, obviously the entire state. So these are just some of my top priorities. And I do believe that experience matters. Having been the only elected official that is in this race currently, I believe that the partnerships that I have built over the time of my elected office say a lot. I think that I can actually hit the ground running when I get to Lansing because I understand how local government works, how our county government works. There's not going to be a lot of nuances of local government that I'm going to have to learn. I'll be able to hit the ground running and start learning in partnership with some of our other state representatives here in Washtenaw County. So I would say that I think we heard some endorsements earlier. I have over 90 endorsements currently. This kind of shows the partnerships and the relationships I have built over time. I have the Michigan Democratic Party, Black Caucus endorsing me, IBEW 252 endorsement, Huron Valley Area Labor Federation's endorsement. We have the majority of the county commissioners, the majority of the city council folks in Ypsi City, the entire Pittsfield Township Board of Trustees. We have members of the Ypsilanti Township Board of Trustees, members of the Superior Township Board of Trustees. We have the entire Ypsilanti Community School Board, members of the Lincoln School Board endorsing our campaign. And so we have a lot of support from community members, community activists, and more labor unions to come. So at the end of the day, it's going to take a village to really get the work done. It won't just be on me as a state representative. I'm going to be calling on all those partnerships that I built, so that way we can work together to get things done. I think I hit my time. So thank you for allowing me that introduction, Mary.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilson, for that information. And thank you, panelists. I don't know if the other 2 people have shown up. Eli, do you see Mr. London or Ms. Smith in the audience?
I have not. If I see them, I'll let you know.
Okay, then at this point, we are going to go back to the front of the list, alphabetical order. And I want to ask this particular question. This was submitted by Ms. Caroline Taylor. The question is, the voters are hiring you to make decisions on behalf of the community. As Democrats, we hold these core values of compassion, integrity, and equity. Please tell us how your core values drive your decision-making. And we will start with you, Mr. Averill.
So can you repeat those core values for me, just so I make sure I got it?
Yes, the core values of compassion, integrity, and equity.
Equity.
Mm-hmm.
So compassion, integrity, and equity. The work that I have done And my entire professional career has been about equity, not equality, equity, because there is a difference. In every space that I have been in, I have fiercely demanded and defended access to opportunity for those that I'm advocating for, be that my clients as a financial coach, when I'm speaking with financial institutions or debt collectors, or be that when I am working as a higher education professional, as an academic coach, working with financial aid offices. As a coach, my job is to assist my clients in reaching their goals, no matter what goal that is. And I approach that with compassion. I could not do that job without compassion for my fellow people. Big goal, small goal, it does not matter to me. The important is that I am able to serve as a ladder for the people around me to achieve their goals. And I do that with a very high level of love and care and compassion. And integrity is honesty. I do not, my wife is laughing from behind the computer screen. I'm incapable of acting without integrity. It keeps me up at night. I think about little things that happened long ago that I'm sure other people have forgotten that still haunt me, and that I work every day to make sure I am a better person tomorrow, so that I not make any of those same mistakes, no matter how minor they may be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that response. And we will move right on to Mr. Casey. Will you please come back and answer that question? And I will repeat it. Rod, the voters are hiring you to make decisions on behalf of the community. As Democrats, we hold these core values of compassion, integrity, and equity. Please tell us how your core values drive your decision-making. Rod, would you please unmute and come back on camera? Okay, he must be away from his camera right now. So we will go to you, Attorney McCoy. Do you need me to repeat the question?
No. So compassion, integrity, and equity. So I would say what motivated me to become a lawyer, I was actually 14, and my parents raised me to be very cognizant of what was happening in the community. I attended predominantly white schools, but they wanted to make sure that I was well-founded in my Afrocentricity. And so when I was hearing about the prison industrial complex, I decided at the age of 14 that I would become an attorney, and that I would become not just any attorney, but that I would become a public defender to help liberate the brothers and sisters. Eventually, I saw it with sisters too that are in the prison industrial complex. And so I've dedicated my career to working as far as a public defender and doing indigent defense and dealing with people compassionately that have poverty issues, that have mental health issues, that have drug issues, having integrity. I thought I was going to work as a public defender in Detroit, as my whole career. And I do indigent defense. But I don't work for a particular entity because I saw some of the way the politics would work sometimes, where they don't want you to go to trial. They want you to just plead people out and not make any waves. And I became a lawyer to make waves. I'm running for state rep to make waves. I'm not just here to just look pretty. It's about the battle and equity. In the work I've done, I've been the president of the Van Zandt Hamilton Bar Association, which is the Black Bar for Washtenaw County, and I'm currently president of Black Lawyers in Michigan. I've been committed to supporting having diversity, having Black men and women on the bench that are social justice champions. I also, as a lawyer guardian ad litem, I received awards and accolades for my educational programming on what to do when stopped by the police. I was recently called in to help with the Patrick Leola case by attorney Ben Crump, and I definitely think we need to have We need to get rid of qualified immunity. I mean, there's so much that needs to be done. We need to make sure that we protect people their voting rights. Like I did work with nonpartisan election protection with Jocelyn Benson, and during the Obama era, I also worked with the Obama campaign to make sure that people's voting rights are protected. I've done it actually every election since probably Gore Lieberman up to the present. I've done election protection. I did it in the most recent elections with Biden Harris. So I'm in it to win it. I think I have the skill set and community connections and resources to be the best champion for the residents of the 32nd district, and that's why I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Attorney McCoy, for those insightful aspects. And we will go back. Are you with us, Mr. Casey?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Come back, then I will repeat the question. The voters are hiring you to make decisions on behalf of the community. As Democrats, we hold these core values of compassion, integrity, and equity. Please tell us how your core values drive your decision-making.
Well, my core value is from my life experience as being one of the oldest challenges for this seat. My experience with the community, sharing the same experience with the political party as well, is giving me these core values. I'm not just a father, I'm not just a grandfather, but I'm a great-grandfather, and I am very concerned with their future because I have witnessed and even experienced what is going on in society, in the political arena, as well as the social justice arena. You know, I have seen where private prisons come in the state and just lock up our kids, create black hole laws, which laws means just for sleeping in a vacant house while you're homeless is a felony. I've seen what people are sent away for the rest of their lives for minor infractions, 18 years. My heart goes out to them, family members, and it hurts. And I have a responsibility, not only to my community, but also to my ancestors as well. So whenever I meet my maker, I do not want to have to answer to them when he asks, Casey, you have these people who died for you, and now you are in a position to make a difference. Why didn't you make a difference? See, I intended, one of my first priorities is to close down the private prison and make sure they do not ever enter the state of Michigan. Because the first thing you do when you're trying to correct something, if you got somebody committing a crime around the house and killing kids, they got to go. You cannot have no institution like that running around creating laws, bogus laws, to eliminate people. You know, just because they create laws to send them away for using drugs. Many of them was, what would you say, coincidentally strung out on drugs just for painkillers, just natural things that humans do. They made a profit off of. These kind of institutions do not need to be here. My core value goes at humanity. I love my fellow brother, my sister, no matter what color, no matter what race, what gender, what sexual preference. I love each and every one, and I feel that we have a responsibility to look after each other. Very much so. So that is what I base my core value on, is my life experience.
Okay, thank you for those comments, Mr. Casey. And the last person to respond will be Mr. Wilson. And Mr. Wilson, I will repeat the question.
No, you're okay. I'll spare you I'll spare you that time. That's a great question. I would say, first and foremost, the community activists that are supporting our campaign, I think, is a true testament to the proof of my compassion for this community throughout the pandemic, specifically. as there were a lot of resources flowing into this county. I personally was, if we can get Rod to mute himself there. Thank you, Rod. During the pandemic, I actually personally called a lot of our residents here in Ypsilanti Township, a lot of my constituents, to see what they needed, making sure they understood that there was rental assistance available, making sure that they knew that there was childcare assistance available, assistance for car repairs, utility assistance. So compassion, I think that's why folks should be running for office if they have a compassion for their community. Elected officials have to realize, why are we doing this? Why are we in this? Because we should have some compassion for our community. When you're talking about integrity, me being a trustee for my church, being a trustee for UAW Local 898, and a trustee for Ypsilanti Township, obviously, there have been a lot of folks who have put their trust in me to make sure that I have that compassion over whatever organization or whatever entity that I am over or covering. And then in regards to equity, I believe that we need to start talking about racial equity specifically, especially when we're talking about this Ypsilanti area. Racial equity really needs to start being addressed, from healthcare to education, even in the environment, making sure we're having clean water and getting the lead out of the pipes, making sure we address the PFAS issue. Racial equity covers so many different aspects. And I think that this is another reason why I am running for office, because having grown up in this Ypsilanti community, equity may not have always been in place here in Ypsilanti. I mean, this is the 8th most segregated county in the nation. So this has to be one of the #1 topics that we actually start to address around equity. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And at this point, we are going to open the floor up for questions from the audience. And we will recognize hands if there are any questions that you would like to direct to the panel. Please raise your hands, and then we will have them answer your questions. Are there any audience members that would like to ask questions of the panel? Please raise your hand. Ms. Duckworth, I see that you had some questions in the chat. Would you like to ask your questions to a specific panel member or to all of them? Eli, did we have any? I don't see any hands.
Trish Duckworth should be able to ask her question.
Okay, Ms. Duckworth.
Yes, thank you so much.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I wanted to ask the candidates, what is it that you all could do to listen more to the voice of the disenfranchised community? We have seen a few of you within the community and that are listening to the heart of the people, but we just want to know specifically, what is it that can be done to more listen to the voice of the disenfranchised? Because as we know, especially in Washtenaw County, that voice has been silenced over and over again to the point where they don't even reach out sometimes. When I say they, I mean we don't reach out sometimes. We don't show up at things sometimes because we're so used to being silent. What can you do to reactivate the voice of the disenfranchised community?
Mr. Casey, would you like to go first?
Yes, I would. As the father of a kid that own a business in Ypsilanti, I would like to promote the businesses of Ypsilanti, reach into the Pure Michigan Fund and utilize that to promote business in Ypsi. Also, I would like to see that these businesses have like I would say, mentorship. You know, people that know how to incorporate these businesses, to teach them how to expand business. That, you know, retirees or people just, you know, that we hire But definitely we have a lot of producers. Well, at least one of them I know that lives right in Ypsilanti. And this here is some of the funds we keep in the community, not only by hiring these people that produces commercials and everything, but also shooting the commercials in our community. Hopefully I'm answering your statement correctly because I had got cut off. Am I answering it correctly, Mary?
Ms. Duckworth, was that an acceptable response?
No, it was about the disenfranchised community, Mr. Casey. You know, we talk about this all the time, you and I, how the voice of the people, those that are suffering the most, those whose voices are silenced and have been silenced over the years. So what can you do the rest of your colleagues to activate that voice so that you're listening to the ones who need the help the most?
Oh, Mr. Casey, could you just be still because we're getting feedback from you walking. It's getting too much feedback. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Well, first of all, I already attend very many forums, issues that we're having in community. I make myself visible, accessible. I get into exactly what is going on. It doesn't matter what it is, especially if it's affected the community as a whole. I am a one of the co-founders of many organizations, co-founder for the Black Caucus, co-founder for Friends of Peninsula Park, which we address just as well for the residents on the river. You know, we want to get the PFA out the river. We want to, remodel the peninsula building. Want to replenish it with fish. So I'm working with the community. It doesn't matter which economic or social status they have. It is important to be fair with each group, because we all are one. We're all one party together. So I stay busy. And as a state representative, I would emulate Senator Jeff, who has a department that goes out and talks to the community when he came. But from my colleagues as well, my predecessors. And I don't mind following up on it. But I am very known in the community, go in parts of the community nobody else want to go into. Go and ask questions no one else wants to. And I will continue to do that because I feel that is just as important.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Casey, for that response. And next we will go for that same question to Mr. Averill.
Thank you, Mary. And thank you, Ms. Duckworth, for that question. I think that was a wonderful question. You said something there that I think is really important and that I want to kind of hone into. Marginalized communities our community has been ignored for so long that we sometimes forget to raise our voice and demand those things from our state legislators that we need. As a coach, and I'm reminded of the work that I do with my students who, like our community, have been marginalized by society. They often don't know how to ask for the help that they need to persist through their educational experience. As a coach, I have to, from day one, show up for them and do the things that I say I'm going to do. If I say I'm going to help them in any particular way, I have to do that, no matter how large or small that is. And by doing that from day one, what I am able to build is a level of trust with my students that empowers them to know without a shadow of a doubt that if they come to Marshall with an issue, he will attempt to solve it. If this is something that I have the power to do, I will do it. If this is something that I'm unsure about, then I will go and advocate. If we can't do it, I will fight for a change, and I will go and find the resources from some other place so that you can get your needs met. That's exactly what I would do as a legislator. We have to listen to our community members and do the things that we say we're going to do, not give it lip service. By showing my community that I care and that I will do the things that I have committed to doing and bring resources from both the state government and the federal government into our community, I believe that I can empower us and lift our voice up so that we begin to believe more fully that we are worth the support from our government, right? And gaining that voice comes from trust that your legislators, that your elected officials are actually listening, and that when they say they're going to do something, they will actually do it. Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful question, because I do believe it is very important that we know not only what our legislators want to do, but what are they going to do for our community, and how are they going to lift those voices up? Because if we aren't lifting those voices up, then we're not working for the community, we're working for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall, for that response. And next we will go to that same question. Mr. Wilson, Jimmie.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Yeah, thank you for that question. I would say that honestly, this is something I've been doing well at as an elected official currently, is always making sure we're talking to our community activists, different organizations within the community. And then we actually need to take it kind of to a next level. And I say that to say this. I think that in this particular district, we have a lot of boots on the ground. We have a lot of organizations that have been doing work with the people, and actually having those conversations in a more meaningful way, actually having meetings with these organizations. I think this could really elevate the community. I think that for some years, some community activists may feel like they're not being heard. And so this is something I would definitely, since I've already been, having been done that, I would continue this and just take it to the next level where before I introduce legislation, talk to not only our elected officials and our organizations around the area, but also talking to community activists and talking to our community organizations that are actually doing the work. So I hope that answers that question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilson, for that. And moving right on to the last person on this to respond to this question would be Attorney McCoy.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Ms. Duckworth, for the question. In my day-to-day work, I represent people in the prison industrial complex. So I'm representing people that are poor, working class, white folk, predominantly black males, some black women that are dealing with the struggles of drug addiction. They should not be in the prison industrial complex. We need to have more drug centers available for them. People that have mental health, severe mental health challenges. So I've worked to guide them into alternative programming through the courts. I also represented, there was a young man, and he was African-American. He was villainized by the media, and his grandmother had been fighting to get him some special ed support from the Lincoln Consolidated School District. And so I was able to help to make sure that that we worked out a resolution where he was able to get his high school diploma and actually get him a proper diagnosis for dyslexia and dyscalculia, which typically will happen a lot of times after people are adults and they're in the prison industrial complex. So I've been working as an educational advocate. I've worked with youth to get suspensions and expulsions overturned, and for them to get either, whether it's special ed or general ed services, because we have a lot of our children have been suffering during the pandemic, adults as well, with mental health issues. I see over time, we have more people that are homeless that are in our communities. And so with my clients that are homeless, I've tried to work with them and their families and the ministers in the community to get them the proper housing. I've also had a history of doing educational programming on what to do and stop by the police. I did it at New Hope Baptist Church in Ann Arbor. We went to the Ypsilanti community schools. Every year we go out, I come out to Ypsilanti community schools and talk to the students about what to do and stop by the police. I think we need to have more legislation that promotes civic education. I also teach a class at EMU on law and African American experience, and I make sure that my students are aware of the history of oppression that African Americans have experienced, as well as other groups in this country, because I think that knowledge is power. During the pandemic, we as president of Black Women Lawyers in Michigan, we brought in the Lieutenant Governor and Dr. Khaldun, and we made sure that it was accessible for everyone to watch those videos and to have that Zoom encounter. Before the pandemic, obviously, I've been in the community, I've been in the churches, but when the pandemic hit, I also had to help lift up my fellow sisters in the law, because everybody was, as well as my clients and members of the community, because we were all impacted by this pandemic, not knowing where to turn, where it's going to go. Most recently, I've been involved with the Patrick Leola case, which is the young man from the Congo. The family came here to escape the genocide of the Congo, only for Mr. Luela to be gunned down in Grand Rapids. And we have here in our community, there's been a history of brutalization of Black men, women, and children in this community. And so I've been working with legislators, community partners, and that's why I do the What to Do and Stop by the Police programming, because I want to make sure that we do preventative work with students and with adults, and make sure that everybody knows their rights. I've been doing that too with voter protection. In the last election, I was doing voter protection with the Democratic Party. I was also helping folks in Georgia. So, I've been committed. I would say the biggest thing I've been doing is every day working for people, doing some pro bono expungements, helping people in this district to get their records cleared so that they can get a job, support themselves, so they can deal with their housing issues. They just recently passed legislation. So if you have a drunk driving offense, you can get that cleared from your record. And I have a young lady that called me about that. So I've just been in the trenches, in the courtroom, in the classroom, and I want to be in the trenches and go to Lansing. And plus, we've had some crazy people running the show. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I know a lot of women, people of color are not inclined to run for office because of the dirtiness of politics. And I've supported candidates in the past. And I just said, you know what? I hear the cry of the people. People have asked me when I've been in the community, when are you going to run? What are you going to do? And so I'm answering the call of the people so I can help more people in need on a mass level by going to Lansing.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you, Ms. Duckworth, for that insightful question. We are nearing the part where we now need to let the panel give us their final statements as we wrap up, and we're going to ask for 2 questions each. And audience, if you do have questions for the panel, please put them in the chat, and we will make sure that they can respond to you that way, because we want to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. But at this point, we're going to go back and do our wrap-up statements. And this time, we're going to start with you, Mr. Wilson, and then go in reverse order. Mr. Wilson. Jimmie?
Okay, thanks, Mary. Yeah, just to close out, thankful for all the questions that came in. And as always, as I always have been accessible, feel free to reach out to me even after this meeting. That's one thing I've always demonstrated since being an elected official, is that I'm easy to reach. I always return calls, emails. I'm always trying to be in the community, hearing what the people want, because that's really who I work for. I'm not doing this for myself. I have to do what the boss has told me to do, and the boss are the voters and the residents of Ypsilanti. So I would just finish with this to not be long-winded. I'll just say that my experience thus far has put me in a great position to really hit the ground running in Lansing. to making sure that we are working with our community activists, working with community organizations, working with all the different business owners, working with elected officials. Like I said before, this is going to take teamwork. This isn't just one person getting a whole lot done by themselves. This is a team effort. And so one thing's for certain, having the experience that I have demonstrated thus far, I think I'm in a great position to be an excellent state representative in the 32nd district for the Ypsilanti area. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmie, for that wrap-up statement. And now we'll move on to Robyn McCoy. Attorney McCoy, please give us your wrap-up statement, closing.
Okay, yes. Thank you, Mary. So yes, as I said, I have studied the law, I've practiced the law, and now I think that I would be best for serving the people in the 32nd district by actually being a lawmaker to make laws that will affect systemic change. You know, as I've worked in the neglect and abuse system, and I've seen a disproportionate number of working class folks, Black folks that have had their children ripped out of their arms. I think we need to have more parenting classes, have more, again, I as a lawyer, I typically do damage control. People come to me when they're in a state of crisis, whether it's a probate matter, somebody has died and we have to do estate planning. If I get a call from somebody that's gotten locked up in jail, a child that's about to be suspended from school. So I'm dealing with crisis. And so what I'm about is crisis prevention. That's why I do educational programming. If anybody wants me to come out and talk about a specific subject, I just talked at a church. I talked about estate planning. Just call me. My number is 734-846-3042, 734-846-3042. I am accessible. You could even talk to my partner to a point. I'm in the community. I also have had a history of working with the Ann Arbor Ypsilanti Black Chamber of Commerce, where we were out and working with community partners to help ensure that there's development of African-American businesses in this community. I've been active with the Democratic Women's Caucus. We have our luncheon coming up on May 21st. So if anybody needs any more information about that, they can reach out to me about that. I've been actively working to make sure that we have diversity on the bench. I worked to help make sure that I worked to help Lorraine Washington get on the bench, and also worked to help make sure that we got our first African-American female judge, Marion Perry, in the 15th district. We have Arian Slade that's running for the circuit court seat. So sometimes I'm overtly doing advocacy, sometimes I'm doing it behind the scenes, but you can bet your bottom dollar that if you vote for me, I will be working for the people in the district for the greater good. And I've been doing phone banking, we're doing door knocking, I've been talking to the people in the community to hear from the voters about exactly what they want and making sure that their needs are addressed. And as I said, you can go to robynmccoy.com, find out more about my platform. Workers' rights, making sure that we protect the rights of the military families, the veterans, educational, our youth, our seniors, making sure that they get all that they have earned and for what they've given us in the community. And, again, protecting voting rights, making sure that there is accountability. I did meet with the chief of police in Ypsilanti recently to talk about issues of accountability in this community, because I've heard from clients about, certain situations, things about the way that they've been treated, things of that nature. So I'm accessible, I'm here, and I would definitely appreciate your vote and just continue my work as an advocate, activist, and a champion for justice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for those of your wrap-up statements. And now we'll go right on to Mr. Casey. Rod?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Yes,
Okay.
Mary. First of all, I would like to say, I'd like to thank you and the Democratic Party for viewing this today. But as a delegate for 19 years, 19 years in the party and approximately 15 years as a delegate, I have served loyally the party and the people, and I will wish to continue to do so. I have brought progressive issues to the front line. I am the father of progressive Democrats. I have brought the one have brought and wrote a resolution to give funds for mental health, for prison reentry. My mentor was Alma Willis Smith and Congressman Conyers. I have some very powerful people who taught me what to do and taught me integrity and taught me what to fight for. I believe in fighting with my heart for things that belongs to our community that we have been getting deprived of very much. I do believe in equality. I believe in fairness. I believe that everyone should receive just what they need. Also, I would like to say that politics is not just for prestige and pompous, okay? It's not for flexing your muscle. It is for getting there and serving the people, but also you have to fight. You have to fight, all right? I was assigned to get rid of one of the most heinous judges in Michigan's 50-year history, Cliff Taylor. And I did it with ease. With the assistance of the party, me and another member of the Democratic Party went across the state campaign. We got that chief judge out of there, all right? And that's just one of the instances. So it's not just about negotiating, talking. Sometimes you have to take out some politicians because these people set our whole system back, humanity back, okay? They social, what would you call it? Social undeveloped. And I am a person that brings forth issues that no one else wants to bring forth. I think outside the box because right now we are the poets part of this county. All right, we used to be the richest part when the plants was here. So I intend to turn that around, but I'm gonna need your support. You may go into my website at rodcasey.weebly.com. All right. That's again, Rod Casey, that's one word, .weebly, WEEBLY.com. If you want to know more about my platform. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to being your next step state representative.
Okay, and we will thank you, Mr. Casey, for that. And as our final presenter, Marsha, will you please come forth with your wrap up and closing statements? Thank you.
I just want to start by first thanking the Washtenaw County Democratic Party for offering this platform to all candidates. I think it is supremely important that our political system be made transparent and accessible to everyone, not just those that have the time and the energy and the resources to plug themselves into that system. So thank you for offering this wonderful platform equally to all of our candidates. And thank everyone who tunes in today and who may watch this video later. Again, thank you for taking the time to involve yourself in our local politics. There has been some conversation about experience, and that's something that I wanted to address. I am not a politician. I'm a public servant. What that means is that my campaign is a process that may look a little untraditional, but that inexperience is limited to my inexperience as a politician. I am not inexperienced. I have served this community diligently and impactfully for my adult life. In 2017, at the age of 26, I was recognized by the same state legislator that I hope to join for the work that I did impacting the economic stability and equity of our community. I do not think that is inexperience. I have the mind of an economist, of a political scientist, of a policy analyst, but I have the heart and soul of a servant. I wake up every day and work harder than I have ever worked in my entire life. And I do it with a smile on my face because through the work that I have done, I have been able to feel a level of power and control over the outcomes of the people around me that I did not know possible, simply through demanding that they are provided with opportunity to the tools they need to be successful. I don't do this because it will be another line on my resume. I do this every day, despite the challenges, because I want to thank my neighbors for allowing me the opportunity to empower them, for the opportunity to lift them up. That is why I run today, because I know that without a shadow of a doubt, every single day I will fight for my neighbors, for the people that are marginalized and the people that are pushed to the side and silenced. So thank you again for taking some time to listen to my platform, to listen to our other candidates. If you'd like to learn more, please visit my website, averillforall.com. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Okay, thank you all very much. And thank you, candidates, for the 32nd district and the audience for listening to these excellent candidates. You have a very hard choice in terms of who will be the person that you will eventually select. But thank you all very much. And at this point, I am going to turn the program over to Eli Nathans for the remainder of our program this morning. Take it away, Eli.
Thank you so much, Mary. So we've got a little over half an hour left for the 47th district. But before we start on that, I want to point out that Janet Cannon, one of the vice chairs of the Precinct Organizing Committee, has left a note in chat about the need for assistance, especially in gathering signatures for petitions. So, for example, the petition to protect the right access to the ballot, which is being circulated. So please take a look at that chat or go to the Washtenaw Dems website and look for information about the work of the Precinct Organizing Committee. That's number one. Two, early in today's program, one of the members of the audience asked that I announce that there will be a pro-choice rally this afternoon on the Diag, so that's downtown Ann Arbor, between 2 and 4. It's part of a national series of protests arising from the impending, so it seems, overturning of Roe v. Wade. I'd also like to take this opportunity to take a brief poll. So the programs committee attempts to alert fellow citizens of our programs. And we use a series of a variety of different tools, such as notices in the Ann Arbor Observer, the monthly calendar on the WCDP website. So let's take a poll to ask you how you found out about the meeting. If you could just take a minute to respond to this, and then submit it, I'd be grateful. So we're at 32% participation rate. Now 46%. Okay, that's better.
Hey, while everybody's voting, I just want to remind everybody that there is a memorial service today for Doug Kelly at the First Unitarian Church Congregation of Ann Arbor at 4001 Ann Arbor, Saline Road. Starts at 2 o'clock, and then following the memorial service, there will be a reception that goes until 4:30. So please do attend if you can. Doug was a giant in the Washtenaw County Democratic Party over the years.
Thank you, Chris. All right, I'm going to end the poll. We have 75% participation. The results are pretty clear. Thank you very much. I'm going to start now with the 47th district panels. So one of the challenges for the WCDP and for voters is to start learning more about political activists in adjacent districts, that the boundaries have changed. And so this is a key part of that process. That the two candidates in the Democratic primary are James Johnson Jr. and Carrie Rheingans. And I'd like to ask Mr. Johnson to go first and take 4 minutes and discuss your own reasons for running and anything else you think citizens voting in this race should know about you. Mr. Johnson.
First off, I just want to thank everyone for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to introduce myself and talk to you about what I stand for. My name is James Johnson Jr. I'm from the Jackson area. I grew up there with my 4 sisters. I come from low-income housing. I went to study college. I studied electrical engineering at Tuskegee University in Alabama. I came home to serve my community. I joined the IBEW apprenticeship in 2000. I became a journeyman in 2005. I became a foreman in 2011, and I later became an agent in 2015, and that's what I currently hold right now. I've been an organizer for the IBEW for the last 7 years or so, and I serve my community. I serve my members. Fighting for workers and workers' rights is what I do. I do this every day of my life. Outside the clock, my personal life, I sit on 5 different commissions for the city of Jackson. I'm on the Planning Commission, the Housing Commission, the MLK Rebuild Commission, the Construction Appeals Commission, and the Jackson Human Relations Commission. With these experiences, it's taught me a lot of things, and it's taught me how to represent people better. In addition to that, I'm vice chair of the South Central United Way, which is the Jackson, Battle Creek, and Lansing United Way. And I also chair the DEI committee for the Jackson United Way. I believe in giving back to my community. I believe in being a public servant. It's who I am. I've been doing this for a number of years. I am also the treasurer of the Jackson Democratic Party. I have been so for the last 3 years. I stay active. The last election cycle, I was actually the regional field director for the Michigan AFL-CIO. I was in charge of all of the door knocking and the phone bank canvassing of the entire Washtenaw County. I was in charge of that, and we did a great job helping Joe Biden and Kamala Harris get elected, and helping Senator Gary Peters get reelected, Gretchen Whitmer, etc. I'm running today to represent working people. I believe far too long working people have not had a voice at the table. And the table, I mean the table in Lansing. Far too long, our issues have been ignored, and I think it's time to have an advocate for working people at that table. I would like to be that advocate. Some of the things I would like to change and be a part of is taking care of our infrastructure. Currently, the powerhouses that are powering America are from the 1950s. There's a huge need to go solar. We need more solar energy. We need to revitalize this plan to include the electric car. The electric car is here to stay, and I believe we need to make some modifications to make it sustainable for everyone. Secondly, rural broadband. I myself live in the rural area. I only have access to 3 MPS broadband. I'm pretty happy that you guys can hear me clearly, because sometimes it goes in and out, and it's a little challenging. Thirdly, rights, and I mean all people rights. I will work like hell with our governor and our attorney general to make sure everyone has the right to choose, the right to vote, the right to be who you want to be. I believe government has no business telling a woman what she should do with her body. I believe that's an overreach. I will fight for that. I am also an advocate of fighting for our school systems. I have a number of friends who are teachers, and I believe they need more support. They need to get paid the proper wages that they deserve, and they need the proper training and the proper proactive governance to help them. I have a great friend of mine who's a teacher who she deals with special ed children, and some of the things she has to endure, it just shocks me. So I really think we need to upgrade that. We need to spend some money with K through 12, increase college attendance, and also increase attention on skilled trades. I'm a product of skilled trades. Skilled trades has been good to me. Skilled trades have provided me with a pension, excuse me, insurance, and a living wage career. This didn't become real to me until later in life. I came down with diabetes. Most of my family has diabetes. And because of this union healthcare that I have, I'm able to afford some things that the rest of my family cannot afford. And I believe that that shouldn't be true. It doesn't matter what you make or who you are, you should have affordable healthcare that will give you the best treatment possible. So that's also something that's high up on my my list of things. Next, I'd like to do is restore prevailing wage. I'm an advocate for fighting for living wages for all people. And I believe restoring that will restore more equity in the community. And I'd like to see us to get rid of the right to work. These are just some of the things that's important to me. There's other things that are important to me as well, but these are the things that I'm running on because these are things that I've been living every day of my life. And I'm talking to constituents. These things affect most people. I'm a strong advocate for the LGBTQ community. In the city of Jackson on the Human Relations Commission, we handle all of the LGBTQ complaints and racial complaints in the city of Jackson. I stand firm on that. Also, well, man, what else? I just want everyone to know who I am and that I know being from the Jackson community, some of you haven't seen me, but I have spent most of my career in the Washtenaw area building buildings. My day job, I've been an electrician for 22 years. I've been a part of building buildings from Mott's Children's Hospital to CVC to USB to Hill Auditorium. That was a remodel, of course. Hatcher Library remodel. My last job in the field was West Quad. I was a foreman there. We made some beautiful dorms for the student housing, and it just makes me feel proud that I can continue to give back to the Ann Arbor and the Jackson community that I've been doing for so many years.
Right. Mr. Justin, I think I'd have to say time is up for the introduction. And that's okay. But there'll be questions. You'll have a chance to respond to those, and also there'll be a time for a closing statement. Okay. Thank you. Carrie Rheingans, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nathans, and thank you, James, for your introduction. I'm really excited to see how wonderful it is for our brand new district to have such great options for our community to choose from. You know, the Democrats are really lucky this year that we have so many great candidates. My name is Carrie Rheingans. You say my last name like the Rhine River in Germany and Gans like a goose. My ancestors farmed geese on the Rhine River. And shortly after they came to the U.S., one of my grandfathers was actually a Presbyterian minister at the Presbyterian Church in Brooklyn, Michigan, which is in this district. So I have roots from the 1920s in this district. So I was thrilled when I saw the redistricting resulted in a district where I live in the western edge of Ann Arbor with my husband and 5-year-old daughter, and it stretches all the way to Jackson and includes that town where my grandfather was a minister. Another thing that I am excited about with this district is actually the bringing together of Washtenaw and Jackson County folks. So in my past work, in my career, I've worked for the local HIV and AIDS service organization, and when I was there in the aughts, the 2007, 8, 9, 10 time period, we actually opened an office in Jackson, and I was thrilled to be able to go out there and help get that started. And to this day, there's still an office there. There's a lot of connections that can be had between Jackson and Washtenaw counties. Right now, my day job, I serve in the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services as a contractor, and I work on behavioral health policy for Medicaid. My particular project is to increase provider capacity for Medicaid providers to provide substance use disorder services. This means that I'm working heavily on our state's opioid strategy. And stay tuned next week. We hope to release some findings of a survey that we did with over 1,000 people across the state for us to figure out how to prioritize our own use of opioid spending for our settlement, as well as local communities. So many of the communities in this district did sign on to that settlement and will have an opportunity to spend funds to address the opioid crisis in our communities. That is a big crisis in both Jackson and Washtenaw counties. In addition, right now, my day job that I do on top of that is as an instructor at the University of Michigan School of Social Work. I've been an instructor there since 2015, and I teach classes on community organizing, policy advocacy, healthcare policy. And as a result of being an instructor, a non-tenured track instructor, because I'm a practicing social worker as opposed to a researcher. I am a member of the American Federation of Teachers Local Union 6244, which is the lecturers employee organization at the University of Michigan. And I'm active in that group. I've been active in their political action committee, and we're working on getting folks energized for this midterm election. So to me, every policy issue is a health issue. Before I worked as a contractor at MDHHS, I served in our community helping roll out the Affordable Care Act and making sure that people could get coverage who hadn't had coverage before. Part of what I did during that time was to bring the nonprofit hospitals together and help them to meet their federal requirements under the Affordable Care Act to assess their community, the community needs, and then find a way to address them. The hospitals really wanted to work together, and we also were highly prioritizing equity. So we devised a method of being able to look at data and find where there were disparities by a variety of factors: race, gender, geography, age, coverage status, income. And anytime there were disparities in these factors, we would elevate those health issues and make sure that we were focused on addressing those first. Because when you see those differences, they're not fair, they're built into the systems, and we really wanted to use the might and the power of those hospitals to be able to address that. And I was very proud to be able to help develop that method, and we've presented it at national conferences. You know, before that, I worked in the field of HIV and AIDS for a while. I was the only Spanish-speaking HIV test counselor in Washtenaw County, which was very interesting. When people would walk in and see me, a very obviously white woman, they would be very confused that I would be the person speaking Spanish to do their HIV test. But it was an honor to serve the community and to help provide access to people who might not have been able to get that access otherwise. As a result of some of the work in that field, I was connected to national organizations that did HIV and AIDS advocacy and activism here in Michigan, across our country, and even internationally. One of the groups I worked with was called the Campaign to End AIDS, and we were very active in the 2007 and 2008 presidential race, trying to make sure that AIDS was a policy issue that would be considered. And once President Obama was elected, he actually asked our national organization to help receive testimony across the country about what should be in a national HIV and AIDS strategy. And my national partners contacted me as the organizer in Michigan to receive testimony. And we had over 100 people provide testimony. And I tried to invite some Spanish-speaking people that we served, but they did not feel comfortable because of the multiple stigmas that were putting them at risk for HIV. And so I interviewed them and asked them if I could share their stories, and they said yes. And so when I had a chance to share testimony at that event for the White House, I shared their stories, and I did not share any of my own stories. I just shared what people had asked me to share for them. So that's an example of how I literally go and ask people what they want to see and try to incorporate that into the policy making. I do that with my day job now. I do that by interviewing people on Medicaid and trying to make sure that their voices are what's driving what we do at the state level. I'm very involved in a variety of community groups, and you can find out more on my website and a list of endorsers from a variety of areas in this district. And I look forward to hearing what questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Ms. Rheingans has about an additional minute left to be equitable about the distribution of time. So you can use that in the closing statement if you want. Are there any questions from the audience? I'll ask you to raise your hands. And while you're thinking of questions, I'll start with one myself. So Ms. Rheingans, you'll answer first. An elected representative cannot specialize in all areas. There is too much to learn. What will be your areas of special focus in Lansing if you are elected?
Thank you. That's a great question. And it's so true. So as I mentioned, I'm a health policy expert. I teach classes on that. And the biggest part of the state of Michigan's budget, the single biggest area, is our Department of Health and Human Services budget. So I'll be able to walk in on the first day and know all of the block grants, all of the acronyms, there are many, and know how the process works to change Medicaid policy, know the funding and appropriations of those various areas within the largest part of our budget. I also am an instructor at the university, so I have some understanding of higher ed funding. So that's an area where I will be an expert. As a member of my labor union, I'm pretty strong on labor policy and protecting workers. And as I mentioned, since everything to me is a health issue, I can find ways that I would be able to tie things even outside the Department of Health and Human Services to health. So obviously, air and water quality, those are issues that relate to health and are outside the Department of Health and Human Services. So I would say health area would be an area where I'd be an expert, education, and some environmental and worker rights policies. I'm also a strong advocate for civil rights and voting rights. And I know there's a lot going on with that right now. So I would like to support a lot of the movement that's already happening with those particular areas, and build on my years of experience working to protect the vote as a poll watcher, and even going down to TCF or Huntington Place after the 2020 election to help protect that vote, especially in Detroit. So those are some of the areas where I think I would be more of an expert than others.
Great. Thank you very much. I asked the same question to Mr. Johnson. An elected representative cannot specialize in all areas. There's too much to learn. What will be your areas of special focus in Lansing if you're elected?
I would say infrastructure, because it, like Carrie said, it covers everything from healthcare to equity to labor to jobs. It's all inclusive. If we solve the infrastructure problem, we can solve a lot of our other problems. And if we do it equitably, we can cater to all of the citizens of the district. Also, I think some of the social justice things that needs to be addressed with the LGBTQ community, with women's rights, with minorities, people of color, those would be the two things that I would focus on being a specialist at if I could just choose to.
Right. Thank you very much. Again, I'd like to ask attendees if they have any questions. Seeing none, I brought a few more of my own, so I'll ask. And this time, Mr. Johnson, you'll be the first up. Should local school districts be given more autonomy to raise operating funds for schools? So I think all Democrats agree our schools are in crisis, primary schools. They're not getting funded enough. And it's been very hard to change that over the past 20 years. So this is one small piece of a very large picture. Should local school districts be given more autonomy to raise operating funds for schools? Mr. Johnson.
Absolutely. They should be given all of the tools they need and the monetary resources possible. Like I said, I have several friends who are teachers, and to see them have to come out of their pocket just to get the bare essentials to serve their class and be an adequate teacher is disturbing. So I really believe that, we need to give them, first off, the pay and benefits they deserve, and secondly, the things they need to be a successful teacher.
Thank you very much. Ms. Rheingans, same question.
Can you please repeat the beginning of the question?
Certainly. It's should local school districts be given more autonomy to raise operating funds for schools?
Yes. I think that school districts are the ones that are the experts in what they need, and they know their local community, and they know the people who go to the schools in the community. So I do think that they should have autonomy. At the same time, I do think that the state of Michigan needs to be supporting our school districts because communities are different. And the way that schools are funded now relies heavily on the local tax base based on housing stock. And I live at the very outer edge of Ann Arbor, and this is an expensive place to live because our housing is so valuable. And therefore our district can really, tax ourselves and raise a lot more money than other neighboring districts. And I think that the state needs to help make sure that there are more equitable opportunities for different districts. So I do think that districts should be able to choose how they want to raise their own revenues. And I do think the state has a role to play there as well. So that's, I guess, how I would answer that question. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. I have a question from Caroline Sanders, and I try to address questions to both candidates here. So Ms. Rheingans, I'll start with you and then go to Mr. Johnson. The question is, what connections do you had? What roles have you played with organizations focusing on people of color? just answer that as take that question as you'd like. You could answer it in a variety of ways.
Sure. And I think Caroline's question had a little bit more detail. It was asking about personal relationships with persons of color and support and interactions with those communities. And I think it's a great question. So thank you so much, Commissioner Sanders, for asking this question. Obviously, earlier I said I'm a white person. I'm from a small all-white town. And when I came to the University of Michigan in the year 2000 to attend college was really when I first started making friendships with people of color. And one of my very best friends from that time, we have been friends for 20 years. She is now she's at a high level in the city of Detroit. I don't want to get her in trouble here, but so we've been personal friends since, the year 2001, I think. And we were in each other's weddings and things. So that's an example of a personal relationship. I have many other personal relationships with friends and family where I've helped people, be pregnant, give birth, help them organize baby showers for themselves, and other life celebrations, and even, celebrations of life, really, when people have homegoing and things like that. So I have those personal relationships of friends and family. In addition to organizations serving BIPOC communities, when I worked in the field of HIV and AIDS, the majority of our staff and clients were BIPOC individuals. And I quickly learned that part of being white was that I had some power that some people would listen to me over some of my fellow staff or some of our clients. And if I was going to be responsible and serve people the best way I could, I needed to consciously use that power to support the people that needed to get into spaces or needed to get in conversations with decision makers. And I chose to do that at that time. So I'm happy to give names if you need references about that. In addition to that, part of the opportunity I had when I was doing the Spanish language HIV testing was to work with other Spanish speaking service providers in the community. And one thing we really noticed is that people wanted a place to go that they felt safe. They knew somebody would answer the phone in Spanish. And so we started scheming about how to make a Latinx Spanish speaking community center. And so I worked with a diverse, not just Latinx population of leaders to help create this community center, which we had called Casa Latina. And, when I was working with my friend Charo to see who would be the executive director, this was when I was in grad school. I said, please be the executive director. She was very nervous about that because she hadn't run a nonprofit before. But I said, this has to be run by a Latinx person. It can't be run by a white person. And so I chose to, help her behind the scenes and, make sure that she was really the face of the organization. So those are just a couple examples of ways that I've worked over time and with leaders and with organizations. And I have more examples that I'm happy to share. I just don't want to spend too much time. I'm sorry.
That's okay. As you can see, I'm a little flexible with the time. So Mr. Johnson, if you have anything you want to say with respect to that question, you should feel free.
Absolutely. As some of you may know, the IBEW, we've been working with NAN to help represent a group of 9 workers that worked for a contractor in Ann Arbor and other cities who's been racially discriminated against. And we're standing up for people's rights. That's what I've been doing most of my career, is advocating for the people and advocating for these people who are, people of color or indigenous people is what we do. Here in the IBEW, I fight for workers' rights, no matter who you are or what identity you are, anything. It doesn't matter to us. We're all equal. We all get the same pay, the same treatment, the same pension, the same benefits, etc. That's been my lifestyle for 22 years now, and that's all I know.
Thank you very much. I've got one further question came through the chat, and then I'm going to let you make a closing statement. So here, I think Mr. Johnson will go first. And the question is, would you devote any time to pushing DTE to move away from fossil fuels if you're elected?
Absolutely. I believe in solar. I've been personally installing solar since 2011. In 2011, I was installing solar in the Mojave Desert in California, and I'm running for office to hopefully help Michigan catch up. Solar is here to stay. Solar is needed. The electric car is here to stay, and we need to change how we make our power to accommodate these electric cars and all the other electrification that we need to do to make us, a better America, because climate change is real.
All right, thanks very much. Mrs. Rheingans, same question. Would you want me to repeat it, or do you want to just take it?
I'll take it. I agree with James. We definitely need to make this transition away from fossil fuels. It's not the future. We have a lot of options that will work in Michigan: wind, solar, geothermal, and there needs to be more pressure put on big corporations like DTE and others. DTE's main competitor, Consumers, who is based in Jackson, actually, is far ahead of them. And if a big corporation isn't going to be shamed into doing the right thing, they, as a corporation, they care about their competitor, and their competitor's beating them. And I'm okay with saying it, and I'm okay with reminding them. And I will refuse to take money from DTE. They are not living up to what they really say that they want to do. So yes, I will certainly push DTE on this issue.
Great, thank you very much. So we now have 6 minutes left. That means there's approximately 3 minutes for each of you for a closing statement. Ms. Rheingans, you go first.
3-minute closing statement. Excellent. So as I said earlier, my name is Carrie Rheingans, and I'm asking for your vote on August 2nd because we have a primary. This district is so blessed to have wonderful candidates to pick from. So you've heard from both of us today, and we have a lot of similarities and some key differences. It's up to you to decide from these really great choices. I have a history of serving our community through boards and commissions like the Board of Health that I'm on. And I have served in nonprofits for a long time in our community and have connections with folks in the community and people in power. And I'm hoping that I can appropriately wield any sort of power that I might have in order to make sure that we're bringing everybody along in our community, that we're protecting our very basic rights, such as a woman's right to abortion, which before I got pregnant, I was pro-choice. Once I went through pregnancy and a very complicated childbirth, I became even more pro-choice. And I've been, supportive of LGBT rights for decades now, including doing policy advocacy at the state, national, and federal level. So basic rights and having an expertise in healthcare, which is the biggest budget area of our state. We're still in a pandemic. We need to re-put back together our society after this pandemic. And the thing that's going to stay with us is all these workforce issues, particularly in healthcare, particularly in childcare. And we need to make sure that we're addressing the behavioral health issues that are just starting to be the wave that we're going to see in the next decade. I hope you can vote for me on August 2nd, and I'm happy to talk to other folks offline. I've put my contact info in the chat, but my website is up here for folks watching the recording later, and I hope to talk to you more soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson, 3 minutes.
Wow. Once again, I just want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak and for the voters to get to know me. And in closing, I feel that I'm the right candidate based on the lived experiences that I've had and the work I've done in my community. Some of the different commissions that I serve on has given me a key insight on things that I weren't aware of or things that I don't know how to address. I can't wait to be an advocate for all, the LGBTQ community, women's rights, people of color rights, anybody who's been underrepresented. I would like to be that conduit for working people. I believe for far too long, working people have been ignored. And it's time for us to be able to voice our opinions and have someone who will be a strong advocate and fight for us. I will fight for all people and make sure that things are done in an equitable way. And I would love to make sure we strengthen our education and make sure that all of the students are receiving the things they need to receive to be great products of society. I believe that we should continue to do equitable work and just take Ann Arbor, Jackson County into the future with renewable energy, going green. If you vote on August 2nd, I won't disappoint you. I love to have your vote. I love to have your support. If you want to learn anything more about me, my website is electjamesjohnsonjr.com. You can see my platform. You can volunteer, donate, or whatever your heart see fit. But I would love to see you there. No matter who you vote for, me or Carrie, make sure you do get out and vote on August 2nd and exercise that right that our ancestors fought so hard to get us. That's all.
Thank you so much for this very impressive, inspiring discussion. Are there any announcements that need to be made before this meeting is adjourned? Going once, going twice, adjourned.